how would you define monotheism? I mean, you kind of just touched on it a little bit, but in this recent debate that you had with Dr. Joshua, he, I know his sort of stance or view on the Trinity is perhaps not mainstream. Again, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not as well versed, obviously, but essentially he provided his definition of monotheism, and he said, as long as there's one fundamental sort of being through which everything kind of came, it's okay that you have Jesus and the Holy Spirit, which are sort of non-fundamental divine beings. So he said that as long as someone believes in one fundamental being, and there's other deities as part of that, they believe Jesus was eternally begotten. They believe that, essentially, I think what he said was that all three are relationally different, but ontologically the same, or something like that, right? So could you maybe just, in your own, how would you define monotheism, and what would be like the main distinctive factor between what we believe in terms of pure monotheism and Tawheed versus the Trinity? Because Christians, as we know, believe in one God, right? So many Muslims are surprised to hear that if they're not interested, or like they don't really read up on this, they'll say, oh yeah, Christians believe in three gods, but that's not an accurate statement. They actually believe in one God, one essence, three persons. But how would you define monotheism?
Which to me is three gods. So just to make that clear, I don't buy the claim that it's one God.
Right, I understand, but just to make it, just to be fair to them and their claim, right? Like no Christian would ever say, I believe in three gods, even though you could argue that the conception of that one God essentially ends up being either modalism or tritheism. But anyway, so how would you define monotheism, pure monotheism?
Yeah, mono means one, theism, theos, God. There's only one God, period. There's only one entity that has what's known as these intrinsic divine properties. And this God is only one, if you want to use the word person, one person in the sense that he has one mind, one will, one center of consciousness. There is neither multiplicity in terms of persons of God, nor in terms of plurality of gods. So he's wahid, right? This is the term used in the Quran. There is only one God, one divinity in existence, and he is ahad. He is totally unique. He's one of a kind. So our conception of Tawheed is that none share in his essence except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by himself. None share his essence. There are not multiple hypostatic persons of God that share the essence, that are sort of three centers of consciousness or three first person perspectives or whatever they want to say. No one shares in the attributes of God. God is omnipotent. He is omniscient. He has absolute volition within his nature. No one else has these things intrinsically. Someone could have a sort of power, but it's contingent and limited, given by God. And no one can do the actions of God, right? God alone does his actions. So this is our Tawheed. So my definition of monotheism is not that there's three beings that all have the intrinsic properties of divinity, but one of them is the one true God because he grounds the other two. Well, that's three gods. So I don't buy that. That's monotheism. That's not my definition of monotheism. Monotheism is that there's one quote unquote person who is God, a sole person, and that he does not share his essence, attributes, and actions with any other person in existence.